Dana White begs Chris Weidman to retire at a post-fight press conference. Now, the reason I bring that to you is that has happened before, but not 5 times. I mean, don't forget, when Dana thinks it's time for a guy to retire, Dana will cut the guy. The guy will not fight again. Chuck Liddell and Dana White, on a personal level, were very good friends. Dana retired him at a press conference and said, this is why, because we're very good friends, because I care. Now, Chuck was getting put to sleep, and I mean, there was some different stuff. I used the example that this was not Dana making a decision, this was Dana making a request. So you're getting a request from the guy who has the power to make the decision. Right? It's just an unusual spot. That's all that I'm bringing to you. You must understand. Chris Weidman on Saturday did everything he set out to do. He did everything he said he was going to do. He inspired everybody that watched. He brought honor once again to his family. He was proving to himself that he could get up, that he could do this, that he could go through training camp, that he could do it properly, which is what the weigh-in represented. The mere fact that he made weight showed you how hard he trained and how hard he prepared. Think about guys that are well-rounded. We hear that term a lot in our sport, but that started way back. Marco Huas was the first guy to be well-rounded. That was 1994. 1995. But guys come along the way, right? Then you'll have a George St. Pierre, and he'll remind us what well-rounded actually means. As you play that game, Chris Weidman is a great representative, somebody who can do it all. I mean, Chris Weidman wanted to wrestle with Tavares. He went out there and tried to wrestle with Tavares. When Tavares was prepared for the wrestling, nowhere to use the cage, Chris switched it, and we ended up having a kickboxing match with a guy on a bionic leg. I'm just sharing with you, Chris Weidman was awesome. That's what he set out to do, to prove that he could do it. He held up for 15 minutes. He had all the heart, all the grit. That was the performance. Now, my guess is that Chris Weidman is down in the dumps. He's got the post-fight blues. That's my guess. Because he forgot. He forgot this thing was never about outcome. Never. It was about everything Weidman said he was going to do, wanted to do, and set out to do. He did it. He did it. And as athletes, particularly in this sport, we don't get better with time. And as athletes, particularly in this sport, experience isn't helpful. If you have somebody and you don't know anything about them, but they played 20 soccer games, and you have somebody else, and they haven't played any soccer games. They like it, and they're on the soccer team, and they got the cleats, but they haven't played yet. You would be very reasonable to assume the person that had 20 games is better. And you can take that over to basketball, too. They've played 10 years of basketball. This guy has played 1. I would assume the person that played 10 is better. And almost every time I'm going to be right. Makes sense what I'm saying, right? Well, it's not that way in fighting. You don't pick something up out there. You don't gain strength from beating your opponent like you do in the video games. You leave a piece of yourself out there. You got so many rounds in a clip. You don't know how many it is. Only the universe knows. You find out the hard way. And I suggest for you that Chris Weidman looked awesome. I suggest for you, Chris Weidman just went and did something that I don't know any other man that can do. I don't want to make comparisons here to come insensitive, but from my understanding of doctors that have talked about it, what Chris Weidman went through is more severe, right in line, but more severe than what Conor McGregor went through. But the timeline of when they were both hurt was pretty close, but Weidman's back at full speed. Very hard to do in your late 30s with the presence of USADA. That's just the truth. Everything that Weidman did is what he set out to do. Principle 1 for us was to inspire. He did inspire us. Principle 1 for his family was to show that you get up when you get knocked off. That's it. And he did it. And he did it hard for 15 minutes. And his whole body held up. And I just suggest for you, the end is going to come. And when the end comes, to go out on your terms, meaning you're the one that made the decision. I have a contract. My contract is active. They will honor the contract. Give me an update. Give me an opponent. I'll get to training camp to keep living that same life. When that is still in play and you say, stop, that's what's called going out on your own terms. And it's a big deal. This is a future Hall of Famer, not even maybe. I frankly don't know what's holding him up. They could put him right now while he's still active. Who never went against the rules. Did everything he ever said he was going to do. This is an honorable guy who went out and showed honor. And you want to go out on the right performance? That was it. That was a great performance. That took heart and grit and toughness. Chris Weidman goes out there. He's fighting southpaw 85%, 90% of the fight. Switches to orthodox, switches back, gets his leg cut. His conditioning so good that he can stop partway through the second round and yell at the guy. But it was great. Everything about it was great. I don't know when the ending comes, getting to fight at home, having that reception from the crowd. On television, just for example, when you're on the prelims, they don't show the walkout. They come back from commercial break. Two guys are in the ring, got a guy in a shark suit, screaming into a microphone, getting way too close. That's what you have. They showed Weidman's walkout because it's so epic. Tom Petty hits. Won't back down comes on. The former world champion walks out. The crowd is going. That was the night. That was the night. Everything's perfect. The stage is set. The job is done. The promises were kept. This was never about outcome. It was always about performance, and Chris Weidman delivered.